wide disparity between the two nations, not only in size, also in terms of income levels of people. As we desire our economy to grow, our people to have a better quality of life, a better future for their children, I think friendship and trade and partnership with countries like New Zealand will help our people aspire big, will help our people meet the needs of New Zealand, as well as provide opportunities for our people in terms of business, jobs, capability to learn about better and higher productivity farming back home in India. So we've been trying to, in this trade negotiation, go beyond the traditional tariff negotiations or reduction in tariff to newer ways to expand this relationship.
Fantastic. And Minister, I'll get you to answer the same question, but, you know, Minister Goyal said he likes it spicy. Let's make it a bit spicy here. I mean, less than 2% of our exports last year were to India. How do we improve upon that? Are we going to see something that's commercially meaningful for both sides?
Well, the answer is it must be commercially meaningful for both sides, and it will be, because there's just huge opportunity there. I agree with Piyush. The areas that we can cooperate in, you know, before you come to tariffs and trade and so on, is actually how we grow that two-way trade. You know, for New Zealand, when we were in opposition, we decided that our relationship with India would be a strategic priority for a government led by Christopher Luxon. And we reached out to the New Zealand Indian community and decided to hold a small summit. And it was actually, you know, many hundreds and hundreds of people came along to talk about the things that were important to the Indian New Zealand community, business community, but just broadly, widely the community. And so actually, in getting to government, we have lent into that to deliver upon that commitment we made before the election across the board. And we've seen agreements already, as well as, you know, many other things happening. We've found ways for India and New Zealand to work more closely together in defence and security, you know, around aviation, those people-to-people links. I want more young New Zealanders to go to India to learn and to be involved in education. And we want more young Indians to come here to get their education, to get some experience of the world and take it back to help India grow. You know, we want a lot more direct foreign investment in New Zealand, but we also want New Zealanders to go and partner and invest in India. Because you're going to meet people during the course of the next couple of days. Indian New Zealanders are already going to India to invest in manufacturing there, to bring products to New Zealand rather than just manufacturing here to send up. And so there'll be many opportunities there. But Simon, the most important thing I think our Prime Minister said in front of the India New Zealand Business Council a short while ago, the way that we deliver the opportunity is you don't leave it to governments alone. It is you, the business community, and the people of New Zealand and India that will take it to the next level. Our job is to get something that gives you the framework to build upon, and we're working very hard at that, and we've committed to getting it done and not giving up until it's done properly, which means you don't have to rush. But guess what? We're not going to take too much time either. But then we have to empower the business community, the people of New Zealand and India to come together, and we have to get those direct flights between India and New Zealand. And the rest will look after itself.
Fantastic.
May I just add one? He's raised a very important point, which I'd like to elaborate a little more for everybody's consideration. Honourable Minister Todd spoke about New Zealand children coming and spending some time in India. Now, remember, the growth opportunities of the future are going to be in countries in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. These are the areas where there's a more youthful population, where there's need and desire. Desire everybody has, but the need to grow is so much that there's fire in the belly of those youngsters there. But they don't get, or did not over the years get, the same opportunities that many of you got. that he spends 6 months or a year in Mumbai, in Delhi, in Pune, in Bangalore, he will get a feel of the culture. He will see the palpable excitement in the air. He will see the areas that these countries require. He will understand what could be opportunities. After all, if he spends 6 months or a year, he'll be going around the place. His mind is sharp. He'll be able to observe the opportunities. And that will grow business. That will grow the people-to-people relationship. That will open the eyes of our Indian young men and women when they interact with a New Zealander there to possibly tourism. I mean, look at what wonderful work you've done on coastal tourism. I came all the way from India for that. To, where was that, Queenstown? By the way, I also went as far deep as Dunedin.
Well, look, I'm sorry. I mean, you know, it's no. We fully agree. You make some great points. I think, you know, we have a sense now that, you know, your top education institutions are amongst the best in the world, in fact. And I just want to acknowledge some good points you've made there. I liked what our MC said. You know, you were asked and you got a good laugh. You know, you're most important. You said the New Zealand EU FTA. I sadly find that a little hard to believe. But what I do want to ask you is, we're so small. Is there nevertheless, putting the trade aspect to one side, is there a strategic, is there a geopolitical aspect to this trade deal for you as Indians?
Well, we both got independence in the same year, 1947. We're both vibrant democracies. In fact, we also share the legacy of having come out of British rule and have been developing our economies. Of course, my constituency, just the one constituency that I represent out of 543 in India, has 60% of the population that you have over here. So there is huge difference in size and scale. But there's a huge convergence in thinking and commitment to democracy, commitment to the principles of brotherhood, commitment to sustainability. So in that sense, this is a relationship which has tremendous potential. Leave aside the size. Collectively, we are big, right? The important thing is intent. The important thing is whether the small population of New Zealand can benefit from the large market in India. Simultaneously, whether the large set of people in India can benefit from some of the innovations that you have done in New Zealand, some of the new practices that you are following in New Zealand. And just imagine, suppose you have a smart way of doing your kiwi farming. Now here, you probably have very large farms, you're able to get very high productivity. Whereas in India, we would have very small farms. An average farm in India is 2 acres, 1.5 acre. Most would be even less smaller than that. In that situation, if some of your technologies from here were to come to India and help our orange growers with some similarity in the citrus fruit, you could actually contribute to something which is very human also. The small farmers, small incomes, very almost sustainable level of sustainable incomes, barely sustaining their lifestyle. Sustenance farming is what you'll see in India, not commercial farming. Now, these technologies there can play a significant role. So it's not just about trade or immediate import-export. It's about also what you will be adding to human development over there. Similarly, you are an important maritime nation. India also has a huge coastline, may not be as big as yours probably, but there could be synergies in that cooperation and partnership. India is trying to develop a lot in the aerospace and defense sectors, where we could work together with New Zealand. So I think there's a serious intent to expand the scope of our partnership from this small, what you were talking of, only 2% of your total exports go to New Zealand. It would be the same on the other side also. So I was also looking at my figures. Probably you are the 80th or 79th trading partner. But that didn't deter me from looking at you as an important trading partner. Also because it's so small, the delta of opportunity becomes large. If we look at it from that perspective, probably the growth we can achieve together, both sides, can also be large, because the small base gives us an opportunity to grow manifold. So I think, and I must say, of course, the two leaders, Honorable Prime Minister Lakson and Prime Minister Modi, really went on, got together and became very close. And he's a very, very informal young Prime Minister. And I think I see tremendous potential also in the geopolitical partnership that is sought to be built between New Zealand and India.
Great words. Minister Macleay, briefly from you, where does an India-New Zealand free trade agreement sit in your priorities?
Well, it's the number one priority we have. We said that the relationship with India would be a strategic priority, and that trade, of course, would be part of that. And it really is because when countries trade with each other, people grow the relationship that we need them to. And I agree absolutely with Piyush and everything that he said. And so, we've put a lot of effort in both sides, the two governments. You've seen Piyush visit now with the largest ever business delegation to New Zealand. When our Prime Minister went down in March of this year, it's the largest business delegation we've ever taken anywhere in the world. We celebrated the success of that with the launch of the negotiations. And so we're committed to continue to work at this. Just to follow on, opportunity is what we decide to make of it. As a small nation, we have often traded more, bought more than our relative size would suggest. With the US, we buy almost $8 billion worth of goods every year, services more. If you take another large trading relationship we have, New Zealand through a free trade agreement with China. When that agreement was signed 20 years ago, there was a few $1 billion worth of two-way trade. It is now over $40 billion, and we buy almost $20 billion from more than 1 billion people, 5 million here. But that is actually just not buying consumable goods. It is buying things that actually jointly have value added to them that are sent out to the rest of the world. And so that's the real opportunity that we have to share through a high-quality free trade agreement, that the businesses of India and the businesses of New Zealand will find ways to grow wealth, to innovate, to find solutions to the challenges that the world face and are willing to pay for, that actually today we can't even imagine. This trade agreement is not about today or tomorrow or the next year. It's about the next 20 years and how much we achieve together.
Fantastic. We're going to bring this plane, I think it's an Air India plane, into land very shortly. But I want to ask you both a couple more, hopefully brief questions. One is, I like what you said, Minister Piyush Goyal, a lot that's different about our countries, actually a lot in common. We try not to talk too much about the cricket, but that comes from our backgrounds, our cultures, our Commonwealth history. By the way, I love, the Indians have done something amazing. Even Americans like cricket today, right? This is unbelievable. But outside of the economic, which we've focused on rightly, what else should we be doing together? Is it sport? Is it movies? Is it defence? Is it, you've talked education exchanges? Maybe just give us one thing you think is an area of focus that could be very exciting for our two great, albeit very different nations.
Maybe take rugby to India?
You have kabaddi.
We have kabaddi. By the way, the Indian women's cricket team, just 2 days back, Sunday, won the World Cup final. And it only goes to show that our women folk are coming out of the traditional being in the background. And of course, we have a High Commissioner also here now. The whole negotiating team, I think, is led by ladies, the team from India. So it's a new world there. But one area which always fascinated me and where I think there's a huge scope for expanding this relationship, and I'm not going to test it on myself because he's threatened that if we don't conclude a good deal, he's going to make me do bungee jumping. But not for me, but for the rest of the Indians. We could take a lot of these sports to India, a lot of potential on tourism, water sports, helping us in evolving what makes for a good tourist destination would be something that will be great for India to learn from New Zealand.
Great stuff. And Todd?
Well, look, Simon, I agree completely. And so ultimately, you know, the real opportunity is to continue to take the relationship to the next level. We should continue to challenge ourselves and to do so very, very much more. You know, our negotiators have been working very, very hard. I think they're now the 5th round of formal negotiation. I see one of our most senior and respected journalists in the room, Fran O'Sullivan. Fran, I can't remember a time when there were 5 formal rounds of any trade negotiation in less than 12 months. And so the desire on the part of the two governments...
He's telling you to put that in your next column, Fran, okay?
The desire of the two governments to work as hard as we can to give opportunity, equal opportunity to the business community, but the citizens, because businesses are about people. You know, the desire and the commitment is there, and it's you know, it's evident, it's obvious. Simon, I think that actually, though, it's the many other things that happened. When the Prime Minister was in India, there were 33 agreements signed, government to government or between the business communities. There was one around aviation. Air India and Air New Zealand have a code-share arrangement now. There is now a commitment for direct flights in 2028 or sooner if the planes are available. Here's something that people in the room may or may not know. The new CEO of our national carrier, Air New Zealand, was born in India. And the CEO, yeah, quite significant. The CEO of Air India was born in New Zealand. We didn't need a trade agreement to do that. And ultimately, Piyush and I said to the two of them, if there aren't direct flights, we will make them bungee jump as well. But the point that I'm making here, the other agreement that was signed was around sport cooperation. You know, so the two agencies have said they will cooperate together. It's our job to make sure that they do, so that the sport grows, that young people can come backwards and forwards. And here's another thing I haven't raised with Piyush yet, but will be over the next couple of days. We have the most amazing sector industry to make the world's best films in New Zealand. We're investing heavily in that. We have foreign direct investment outside coming into Auckland elsewhere. And you make, after I saw an announcement from another country a while ago, you make the best films in the world. And so ultimately we can find a way through our agreement, looking at services, for New Zealand films to be made in India and Indian films to be made here. And with that direct link, Piyush and I can be in a movie together.
Fantastic. I'd like to see that movie, but I wouldn't pay very much.
Simon, he can. I don't think I can. But certainly Todd can.
Those movie star looks. Ladies and gentlemen, I one very brief. You're going to be very brief, you two, okay? I want very brief answers. We have an exciting, you've mentioned it already, dynamic, vibrant Indian diaspora in New Zealand. They paid more than average New Zealanders. They've contributed a huge amount to our country. A very brief word on what they can do for India-New Zealand relations.
I have always believed that the Indians who live in another country, and now in this case New Zealand, have to be loyal to that country, have to ensure that they are peaceful, they understand and merge with the local culture while preserving their own. And in India, there is a belief that the nation or the land which feeds your children is holy, is the most important place for you. We call it in Hindi, the word is karma bhumi. That's you're born in one place, it's called Janma Bhumi, and Karma Bhumi, the land where you work, is Karma Bhumi. And you have to be loyal. So you have to be really loyal to the land which feeds your children. And I think our Indians across the world, and we have about 40 million Indians who live all over the world, different, maybe no country in the world where there's not a significant Indian presence. They were always explorers. They were always going around exploring new opportunities. But wherever they've gone, they've been peaceful. They merge with the rest of society. We may have had an occasional unfortunate exception, but by and large across the world, Indians are looked upon as a very friendly, very easy to work with, and a community that merges with the local culture very well. And to all the Indians who are working here, thank you for holding the Indian flag high.
Simon, when I grew up, when I went to school, most of the school looked like I did. And I remember there was one Indian family there. We played cricket together, and he was a very, very good spin bowler. When I look at New Zealand today, the country my children have grown up in, it looks like the rest of the world, and New Zealand is better. It's much better for that. For 300,000 people from India having chosen New Zealand to travel from the other side of the world without knowing what they would get and to come and make this place their home, tells me this is a very, very special country. And they haven't come and integrated. They've come and brought their culture and their heritage, and they've been proud of what they have, at home, and they've come and contributed, and they are New Zealanders who are equal and have the same rights and the same obligations as anybody else. And I agree with you. I want to thank them for what they do. My friend Kanwaljit Singh Bakshi is over there, one of the first members of Parliament in New Zealand, who was born in India. We went to Parliament together with Simon 17 years ago. Kanwaljit was there for 12 years or 15 years? 12 years. It felt like 15. But
and hasn't aged a bit.
That's right. But Kanwaljit's father was a member of Parliament in India, and I think that when we met we talked, and I think that your father and his father knew each other a long time ago. He is a New Zealander, and he is an Indian, and he is an Indian.
Your email is your first online impression. Make it count. With GoDaddy Email, you get a professional address that matches your domain. It builds trust, boosts credibility, and helps grow your brand. Setup is quick, and your inbox is protected with built-in security. And if you ever need help, we are just a call away. Start building your brand, one email at a time.
It's my pleasure over the next few days to show you parts of New Zealand you haven't seen before. And should you wish, I'll let you drive my car.
Ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Todd McClay, Honourable Piyush Goyal, and not a speeding ticket in sight on this trip. Thank you so much.
Great.
Our third largest ethnic group. You're not meeting all of them in Rotorua, but we're going to meet as many of them as we can.
Fantastic. Typical politician, didn't answer my question. That's okay. I mean, we are, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get a bit more serious. It's not all jokes. I'm interested, gentlemen, you are very experienced ministers. You've ministered 6 years in your current roles. Minister McClay, it's your second time around, and things are always better the second time. You now have met each other on the international stage, on the circuit, how many times?
Probably 8 or 9 times.
And even more.
And I'm offering you, I'm trying to get the mood music for the trade deal right here. I'm offering you the chance to say nice things about each other. What Minister Goyal and Minister McClay, what is each other's style, working style on the international stage in those forums?
You want to go first?
I'll take the last word. You go first.
Well, I think I must share with you that Minister Todd McClay is so lovable, so affable, that almost all the trade ministers get along very well with him. He's extremely kind, extremely courteous, and always willing to offer solutions and bridge the gap when we are all engaged in some very serious discussions or negotiations. I find Todd is always willing to come up with some nice, simple way to get everybody on the same page. So in that sense, it's always a pleasure to have him around when we are on international engagements. When we are alone with each other, I think he's too sweet. No rough edges, very, very polite. I have not heard him raise his voice even once, and I can't say the same about myself. And truly a delight. One would almost feel from the day we first met, we just hit it off very, very smoothly. And I don't think we've ever looked back. So he has a walk-in relationship with me. It's something like we look forward to meeting each other. And that's what set the tone. Otherwise, I don't know if some of you may be knowing, India and New Zealand attempted to do a free trade agreement 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but could not succeed. This time around, right from the word go, both of us decided that we'll look at this relationship completely afresh. We won't go into the old files, we won't go into the old disagreements. And the beauty about the current round of discussions is we both recognize and respect each other's country sensitivities. Every country has certain sensitivities. For example, wherever I go in the world, wherever, I love to carry a little bites, a little snack, Indian snack, so that anytime I'm a little in the mood for something spicy or something crunchy, I just have to get into my bag, open it, and I'll have maybe, I don't know how many of you know about Indian snacks, but one or the other Indian snack with me. My assistant has been on my back ever since the New Zealand trip was planned, because they all know that I'll have these snacks. You're not carrying anything into this.
Well, you've already got in trouble with the authorities once, Minister. Don't do it again.
So I don't know how much I've left behind in Singapore on the way. And the rest I left behind at the airport. And in India, wasting food is considered completely taboo. And it was painful to see those delicious knickknacks being left behind before I came in. But that's only to demonstrate. We both agreed that we look at this relationship respecting each other's sensitivities and coming up with solutions which are a win-win to make this partnership go to the next level. In life, it's not always that you can get everything you want. And every relationship has to be seen in the context of each other's, of the possibilities of that relationship. So what I do with European Union, for example, a $20 trillion economy, or what I do with the 10-nation ASEAN group, collectively a very large population, a very large economy overall in the aggregate, cannot become a benchmark for what I will be able to do with New Zealand. Size, scale, all of those have to be taken into consideration. The kind of market size that I will be opening up versus the market size that New Zealand will be opening. So we both set the context, and the good part was that I found in him a very understanding person, oriented to having, with the long experience he's had in international world in Brussels, as a minister now for so long, probably 13, 14 years. So I think it's so easy to be able to communicate and get an understanding of the situation that probably this time around we can do it.
Wonderful. That was pretty good. So what have you got, sweetie?
Well, look, thank you so much. That's so very gracious of you. I've got to say, from our first meeting, I was struck by the focus and drive and determination, but much, much more than that, the energy. Let me tell you a little story about when I visited just the end of last year, actually. We went up there again for another very quick one-day trip. I think in total I've been to India 5 times now, and I'm there Thursday next week as well. Piyush has invited me to come and speak to an international trade convention, and we have a trade mission from New Zealand, from the forestry and wood sector, going up to look for opportunities to create long-term partnerships with partners in India. But when we visited last year, the end of last year, I met Piyush in his parliamentary office in Parliament, because he was elected to Parliament last year and continued as a minister. And we went in there, and there were maybe 15, 20 people there and sitting around and so on, and was greeted very warmly and introduced to people. And I realised at the same time telephones were coming to deal with a very wide number of things going on in his portfolios around the country. So the ability to have so much drive and determination and energy, and to focus on how to, as he has said, find solutions to challenges rather than continuing to just argue the same argument all the time, is something I absolutely respect in him. The second time that we met was the WTO Ministerial meeting in Abu Dhabi very early last year. I was given the privilege of being one of the deputy chairs of the meeting. And it's fair to say that the WTO has achieved a lot for the world when it comes to trade. We need rules when it comes to trade, because without rules, businesses don't have the certainty that they need to make decisions about investment and creating trading partnerships that will help them grow. And trade is good for citizens in all countries. But it's also fair to say that the WTO has been very slow to make the decisions that it needs to, number one. Number two, it doesn't always recognise in the drive for rules or simplification of rules or getting barriers down that there are different speeds of development when it comes to trade in different countries. And I've got to say, Piyush, I very much admired the way that you made the case for India in that meeting, and when so many others would say, well, actually, we should, go home or just settle, you kept discussing and arguing. The reason I like that is my job as a trade minister, yours is to get the very best that we can for our countries. But as you've just said, we don't get the best for our countries, for our citizens, by imagining everything is there. Trade is when everybody wins. And if I look at the trading relationships we have around the world, whether it's in China or the EU, or whether it's in the UK or in America, New Zealand, of a population of 5 million people, always punches above its weight. As consumers, we do so very, very well. And so the opportunity that we have, and we recommend we should launch a negotiation unless we were committed to getting it done and finding solutions. And as we will work at this, and trade negotiations are never easy, they're never easy. But as we work at this, and when we land it, because we have both said we commit to doing so, then the trade will grow between us, the people-to-people links will grow, and actually it's your vision and your energy that has allowed us in a very short period of time to get close enough to something that 20 years ago people only dreamed of and wasn't possible. But, between us, I think we can get this done.
Fantastic. I have 100 questions, but time is marching. Let's talk trade. Let's talk the trade agreement. I'm not going to try and get you on specifics or prejudice your negotiating positions, unless you want me to. But